essential guide to trim back roses. This time of year it's nothing too major. It's basically pruning off your dead heads, making sure you don't take off your flower bed buds, rounding off the rose a little bit if it looks a bit messy or there's been a snap due to strong winds or heavy rain, that sort of thing. Nothing sort of too major, just sort of going around general tidy up. Couple of things to bear in mind is that if you leave too many rose buds on it and it goes to seed, it's not going to want to flower as much because it's sort of already reproduced. Obviously, to make it easy for yourself as well, if you take them off just before they start falling apart, you don't end up with bits of rose petals all over the place looking a mess. So that's sort of the first bit, just to get your perspective that you're aiming to take the buds off before they really sorry, not the buds, the flowers off before they start falling to pieces, to make it easier to sort of keep it looking nice and tidy and clean, especially if it's a rose on the pot in a patio and it's making a mess everywhere. It's nice to get them all off before they fall apart, so then you don't sweep them off afterwards. Anyway, that's the principle behind it. I've left the roses to go over a bit. They've been battered by rain and wind, so they do need a good chop back now. So it's a good time to go through it, explain what I'm doing and how you can obviously follow the same steps to make it easier for yourself. This rose is OLIVIA Rose Austin. It's part of the David Austin collection, which is a UK grower who makes very good roses. Anyway, we'll bring it in a bit. I'll do some pruning and explain why I'm doing what I'm doing, so you can have a good look and get an eye for it. Okay. Right. So pruning the rose, something like this. It's been water damaged. It's starting to go at the edges. It's only got a day or two and it's going to fall apart. So in terms of this one, it's already had all the other flower buds that are on here, flowers. So we cut it off to a nice, decent looking leaf stem. And I don't know if you can see on the camera, it's got a little shoot there where it's going to shoot from again. And again, same again with this one. It's going over. Chop it back to about here. Nice leaf stem, clear it out. On this one, this is almost perfect, so you wouldn't want to chop this one off. Obviously this one next to it is going lighter, hasn't got too much left in it. This one here, chop it back a bit. This is the last flower on the stem. It's had one here and one here, so then we shorten it down to here to make it a bit easier for the plant as it comes up. It's not going to get as leggy and it's got less chance of falling over. So obviously you can see if you do the same yourself, rather than chopping your last flower off, chop the stem slightly further down. It keeps a better shape to the rose and it will help protect the rose in terms of wind and rain if it's a little bit more compact. Chop a few more off. As you can see, there's another one that's just gone over. Could have probably done with taking that out a couple of days ago, but I left a lot, so it was a nice easy one to see and I could do a few comparisons. Obviously I've chopped this leaf off, tidied up where the other one was, so basically your flowering stem's been there and there. I've just chopped below it to a nice leaf underneath for it to reshoot, because obviously we don't want the rose to go higher and higher and higher during the summer, and then it's going to become more fragile due to the weight and the height onto it. So idea is to sort of tidy up now, clear all the way around, and anything that looks like it's got a day or two left is worth taking off. You're better off taking off a tiny bit early than too late, otherwise it just makes a mess everywhere. So that's the philosophy. You can see here's one. It's got lots of good buds near it. You can see it's got 1, 2, 3, 4 on there, and you want to save all those, but obviously once it's finished flowering we cut it down to here, but obviously there's some nice stuff coming on, so we'll leave that for now. This one off again, just do it a little bit quicker, sort of see you don't, once you get the hang of it, it's fairly quick. Still very good rose, in good condition. Probably shouldn't have chopped it off so early, but that's basically on your limit. That's started fading. We'll chop a couple of these off. Again, still smelling amazing. That's just going over. Here's a good example of one that's sort of come out and hasn't really even come out properly. So it's almost sort of started coming out and gone wrong. So it's not quite faded, but it's not going to last too long, and it doesn't look right with the rest of the roses. So ones that look a little bit messy or you don't like, you can leave them on or you can chop them off. But to me, it's started to brown already, and it's not the greatest looking rose. And it's worth just taking them off more often than not, because the more you tidy them up and even them out, the more they seem to carry on flowering and flowering and flowering. And because we've got lupins all the way around here, the lupins tend to put feed into the soil for the rose, which helps keep them healthy. And the lavender doesn't really like any food at all, so it's not competing with any of the plants. They all complement each other. So it's worth bearing in mind when you're sort of treating your rose and deadheading it in terms of feed. And if you think they're doing well, certain things do help. And if you're interested in companion planting or anything, if you leave some comments below, then obviously you can try and go through more of that in depth in another video. Just a little side note, moved across to the other rows. Again, it's been quite sort of badly affected by the weather. It's all drooping down a bit because of the rain, before I completely forget. Because as you see, like, there's a rose there and there's this rose here. Now the two roses have got slightly out of proportion, and because I'm a bit picky with it, the idea is something like this, basically here, has got a lot higher than the rest of the rose, but obviously it would seem a shame to take this entire stem, because there's like 20 or 30 buds on this, all out and waste all the roses. So the idea is that once this particular stem is finished flowering, is to then take it right down to, I'd say about 2 foot lower to about here to reshoot. Now this rose is sort of in the middle of its first flush, so once all this is finished, although it will slow down a second flush on this bit, I'll chop all this straight down again, one, so it's not so leggy and less likely to be damaged, and two, so it balances with the other rows, so when you're looking at them they look identical, because this is definitely too high. But just something to bear in mind, this is obviously a lot more than is usually pruned, but to balance the effect, it's worth bearing in mind if you've got two roses that you want to look more or less identical, that at some stage you might need to chop a little bit off. I just wanted to quickly go through that just as an example. It's probably will hang in there all right for this year, and probably won't snap because it's quite sheltered and we don't get a lot of heavy rain or wind. But it's worth bearing in mind if you've got two roses you want to look more or less the same. But sometimes you might have to take a bit back harder than you expected. But anyway, so that's about it really. Sort of final thoughts here, everything's now neat and tidy, and to be honest it doesn't look like I've taken that many flowers off, but when I lift a little basket up, you see there's a lot of flowers in there that are sort of yeah, are falling apart. Oh, there's one gone there, and it's worth a tidy up. And obviously if they're at the bottom and you can't really see them, it's worth chopping them off, because if you can't see them or appreciate them, there's not really any point having them. Anyway, it's all fairly simple, there's nothing to get too worried about. If you chop it down a little bit too much this time of year, it will always try and grow back. Obviously if it's a single flowering one, then you want to try and take off the flowers just as they're finishing, because obviously you don't get the repeat flowering. But for a particular repeat flowering one, the quicker you deadhead it, and the more feed and the plant gets, then the more flowers you end up getting. So anyway, any questions, leave them in the comment section below, and thank you for your time.